Welcome, everybody. We are super excited to have you with us today. I am Lori Boyer. I'm going to go ahead. We've got a few people still arriving, but we've got such a great presentation today that I really want us to get started. Today, we are going to be hearing from the great Laura Nelson. Some of you may know her as Laura Hatch. But that has changed to Nelson recently. And she is going to be talking about recouping revenue through reactivation. I love this title. I'm a writer, and I love this title because it's got 3 R words that I adore: recouping revenue and reactivation. So I think that's something that's important for all of us right now. Before we go, I wanted to run us through a few housekeeping notes. We are really active on social media, and I think right now during the pandemic is a great time to be kind of building some of those relationships on social media. So if you want to connect with us, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, we're there. Throughout this presentation, if you do have any kind of like solution reach, support questions, or anything like that, please feel free to hop into community.solutionreach.com, click on My Support, or you can email community@solutionreach.com. If you do have questions, one thing I'm really encouraging today is questions throughout. So if you have any questions during the presentation, go ahead. There's that little question box in your GoToWebinar format there. Put in the question. If it's anything to do with technical things, if you're having sound issues, anything like that, I can help you on the back end at any time. If it's a question about something that Laura's teaching us, then put that one in for sure, because we're going to have a question and answer session towards the end. And during that time, I'll bring up your questions and we can kind of dive into all of that. So I wanted to also introduce myself. My name is Lori Boyer. Having an issue with my screen changing. See if we can get this down. There we go. And I'm a content marketing manager here at Solution Reach, and I deal with all of our content and everything that comes in through blog, webinars, everything. But even more important is introducing you to Laura Nelson today. And again, if you haven't heard from her before, you are in for a real treat today. She is an award-winning international speaker. She's the founder of Front Office Rocks. She's been a best-selling author of Step Away from the Drill. This is a book that's helped dentists understand and embrace the business side of dentistry. She, got all her educational stuff done, her undergrad from Eastern Michigan University in Human Resources. She has a master's degree in organizational development from Johns Hopkins with a real focus on leadership development and success. She's been recognized as one of the top 25 women in dentistry, which is incredible. And she's a member of all sorts of associations and networks and consultants. And she's just really got a huge breadth of knowledge for us. And I know that we're going to learn a ton from her today. So with that, I am going to turn it over to her.
Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you guys can see me. Oh, here we go. I'm going to show my screen. There we go. I think we're good. Lori, is everything look good for you?
Yeah, looks good on my end.
All right, great. So we're going to get started this morning. First of all, thank you for that amazing introduction. Got to make our technology work here. And I'm super excited to be part of this. I think that this topic is an awesome one, and I thank Solution Reach for inviting me to talk about this. This is something that I think a lot of offices might be overlooking, or we say the word reactivation, but what does that really mean? And so I want to spend the next, 45 minutes to an hour really diving deep into what that means and what I think the issues are in our dental offices, and then how we can make an impact of fixing or helping this year and into 2021. So thank you for that great introduction, Lori, and I'm just going to get started. What we're going to talk about today is reactivation. And it's a word that gets tossed around a lot, I think, in our industry, but we really don't dig deep into what is it? How do we play a part in it? Where are our patients going? And then what can we do to get them back? I think we talk a lot. I see a lot of speakers and a lot of events talking about reactivating, but I'm all about like, well, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, how do we actually do that? Like, what is it? What's our goal? What's the why? How do we get our team members to understand it? Because reactivation is not just as easy as, you know, a phone call. There's a whole process to it, and there's a whole team behind it. So let me start by first introducing myself. So if I'm Laura, like she said, Laura Nelson. I was Laura Hatch if you see me speak in the past, but I got married during COVID. I got married in July. And so my new name is Laura Nelson. So during the quarantine, I'm kind of rebranding myself under my new name. But my story is such that it's not like when I was 5, you know, somebody came to me and said, hey, what do you want to be when you get older? And I'm like, I think I want to be a dental office manager. That sounds fun, right? My story is that in undergrad, I met a guy and I said, what do you want to be when you get older? And he said, a dentist or a mechanic. I was all for mechanic because I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of the dental office or dentistry, but he decided to go to dental school. And so that is where my story began. I got my undergrad degree, like she mentioned, in human resources. We got married, he went to dental school, and I was in the business world. I was in recruiting and sales and marketing and management. I was going the business route. He went to dental school and was an associate for a couple of years, and then decided to open his own practice in 2002 and came to me and said, I think you should run the office. And that is how I got put into dentistry. I didn't know anything about dentistry. We didn't have the internet back then. We didn't have webinars like this. I knew systems and hiring and training, but I didn't know codes and procedures and reactivation and practice management software and teeth numbers and dental codes. Like, I didn't know any of that. And really there wasn't, I mean, you could go to a conference when they came to town, you could read an article, but there wasn't a lot of training for it. I kind of just had to figure it out, much like many of us who've been in dentistry for a very long time. So I'm super thankful for companies like Solution Reach, and I worked with them prior to in their old world back when I was in Maryland. I've been a huge fan for 20 years or however long it's been now, back when technology was just getting started. So I had the idea 5, 6, 7 years ago that we actually needed some help with training our team members, because there's not a lot of training. A lot of times we just get thrown to the wolves and, you know, here's the things that we do, go. And so my focus really is about training the team members. It's really about getting into the nitty gritty of like, well, how do we do that? Like, how do I get my patients to schedule their next appointment? And how do I get my patients not to cancel their appointment? It all sounds good, but like, when I'm actually the one standing at the front desk and the patient doesn't want to schedule their next appointment, how do I do that, right? When I'm calling to reactivate patients and they don't want to reschedule, well, what do I do with that? So I'm more about the actual day-to-day. I've been in the trenches with everybody here. I know what it's like to stand there in front of a patient who, you know, doesn't want to schedule their next appointment. So that's really what I focus on. And that's what I started with my training at Front Office Rocks. And since then, of course, like she mentioned, I've kind of gotten entrenched into dentistry, have been joined ADOM, which is a great organization for dental office managers, was named one of the top 25 women in dentistry in 2016. I have to say I'm no longer married to dentistry. I say I'm a recovering dental spouse. I'm now remarried, but still am thankful that he chose dentistry and not being a mechanic, because I would be talking about carburetors and mufflers right now if it wasn't for dentistry. And I believe that we are in the best industry possible, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. So for me to really jump into reactivation, we first have to take a step back and think of what we do as a business, okay? I know we're dental professionals, I know we're dental offices, but at the end of the day, we're a small business. At the end of the day, we have to recognize that we can't do dentistry for free. We can't hope our patients are going to show up. We can't hope our patients are going to accept their treatment. We have to understand that in order for us to really help our patients, we need to run a successful business. So I want to start the presentation just kind of breaking down quickly what a small business cycle is, what I teach on, and then how reactivation plays into it. So take ourselves out of dental for a minute. Just take ourselves in business. If I had like a restaurant or a store, down the street, this would be the small business cycle. This is how a small business runs. Okay, so first of all, I have to market my business. I have to have people know about it. I have to do, Google ads, postcards, newspaper ads, whatever it is we do to get people to know about my business. I have to give my customers an experience, an amazing experience, an awful experience, an average experience, whatever it is. People feel something when they work with my business. I have to sell them on the products that we have, whether it's fancy wine or dresses or whatever it is I sell at my store or restaurant. I have to produce quality products, so they need to have, clothes they love or wine that they love or desserts that they love. So they'll go tell their family and friends to come to my business, okay? So this is a small business, and this is exactly the same in dental offices. We need to market our business. Our patients, our public needs to know about our practices. So when they need a dentist, they know to call us. We need to give our patients an experience when they're in the office, which I'm going to talk about. We need to sell them on the dentistry that they need. We need to produce quality dentistry so they'll go tell their family and friends to come to our office. Now, the issue is, and I'm going to talk about the other two in a minute, but the issue with this is many times our small business, most of the time, is run by a dentist, which is great, except for dentists have been trained and think in the area of produce. Produce, produce, produce. I got to produce more. I got to do more dentistry. I love production. I love delivery. I'm good at delivery. I'm good at production. I go to CE for production and delivery, which is great. That's how our dentists think. And thankfully they do, because they are great dentists. If we didn't have great products, we wouldn't have a small business that people would refer to. So that's amazing, except for the problem is we have to focus on these other things, right? We have to make sure that we're getting enough new patients in, that we're giving our patients amazing experience, that we're getting our patients to accept their dentistry, and they're going and telling their family and friends. So we really need to make sure that when we're looking at our small business, we don't just focus on the production and the delivery. We have to work as a team. If you're an office manager, if you're a dentist, work at learning and growing the other aspects of your business, right? Now, with dentistry, outside of other small businesses, we have the other two parts on here, which are hygiene and reactivation. We, in the dental industry, have the great part about our industry, which is our customers should be regularly coming back every 3, 4, 6 months. We should so our practices, our businesses, our small businesses should be growing based off that, because we get our patients into our ecosystem. And then the majority of the patients should continually be relying on our business on a regular basis. And we know who our customers are. So when our patients do fall off the bandwagon, when they do disappear from our schedules, when they're not coming in regularly, we know who they are and we can reactivate them. We can reach out and get them back into the practices. Other businesses don't have that ability. I mean, when somebody goes into a store and leaves the store, that store doesn't know who that customer potentially was. Who did they lose? Are they going to come back? There's no guarantee they're going to come back every 3 months and buy a new dress. So we have a great business model if we really can understand the business model and not just focus on production. So I'm talking about this first because I'm going to be jumping into reactivation today. And I want you to see why reactivation on the bigger, why this matters on the bigger model of things. Many times, and again, I'll speak to this, many times we think of us like dentists, dental offices, we do dental things, but we can't do dentistry for free. We have to realize that our dental office is a business, and we do have to focus on the business side of things, and reactivation is a completely specific to dental. You don't go into like business magazines and hear about reactivation. This is a specific topic to dentistry. Maybe other healthcare industries too, optical or other ones, but for us, it's for dentistry, okay? So whenever I teach on anything, I always start with why. Why does it matter? And this is a tip I'm just going to give you just in general. Whenever you're teaching team members, whenever you're talking to your dentist, whenever you're cross-training team members, whenever you're doing anything, always start with why. I think that's missed so many times. We just tell people how to do things. We tell people what to do. We tell people, where to go and what to do. But if we don't understand the why behind it, then there's no real intention or motivation, okay? So let's talk about why reactivation is important, okay? And I want to start first with just some metrics and some data. Our dental offices, if you look at the metrics that are out there, are actually shrinking. And what I mean by that is we might be getting 50 new patients in the front door, but we have 65 going inactive, okay? So when we have more patients going out of the back door than coming in the front door, we actually have a business that's shrinking. So we need to realize that the average dental office in the United States, even the best ones, are still shrinking. And we focus a lot of times so much on the front door, the new patients. I call it new patientitis. It's about how many new patients do we get this month? How can we do more marketing? I know things are slow right now. How can we market to get more new patients? And I'm not saying new patients, they're not important, because we definitely want new patients, but we need to focus on our backdoor problem. We need to look at where are our current patients and what can we do to keep them or get them back into our schedules, okay? Now, the average industry terminology for inactive patients is a patient who hasn't been in your practice for 18 months or longer. And I will talk about this as we get into the systems, but yes, we should use that as our terminology, but if a patient hasn't been in 18 months or longer, we consider them inactive, but they're not gone, right? We as an office, we as a team should be regularly trying to get our patients back in because we have that reactivation part of the model that's so vitally important, okay? So when I start talking about reactivation, I want you to recognize that a lot of our dentists focus on production and delivery, which is great. That's how they're trained. And we need to have the best dentistry in town. We need to give the best production and delivery. If we have a problem there, that's where your focus needs to be. But once you have that figured out, we don't need to always just focus on the front door, on the new patientitis. And we tend to do that so much that we forget about our backdoor problem, okay? So when I talk about our purpose, our intention, like what is important to us, what do we need to be focused on? When I talk about reactivation, my purpose and my point and my intention behind reactivation is what? It is not, when I ask, let's say I'm speaking to a room full of people, which I miss doing, by the way. So I'm so glad you guys are here with me now. I wish I could see your faces. But a lot of times I'll say, well, what's our point in reactivation? What's the purpose behind it? And I'll hear, we need to email them once a month. We need to call them once a month. We need to see if they're going to come back to us or not. We need to remind them how important they are to us. We need to reach out because our doctor told us to, or whatever the case may be. And all of that might be true. Okay, that might all be true. We might have policies that we need to reactivate. We want to see if they're going to come back, all of that. But ultimately, we need to know what our purpose is in reactivation. And I challenge you, when I'm making reactivation calls or when I'm reaching out using technology, using emails, using text messages, what is the purpose behind that? And for me, it is butts in the chair. Hashtag butts in the chair. So I want you to write that down, put it on a sticky note, stick it on your computer, teach your team this, hashtag butts in the chair. And what do I mean by that? We need to recognize that when we are making reactivation calls, yes, it's a service. Yes, it's to be nice. Yes, it's part of our job. Yes, it's what we do in the dental office. But at the end of the day, the reason is to get my patient back into the dental chair. Because as a front office team member or as an assistant who's helping out or a hygienist that's making calls, whatever it is, my ultimate goal is to get that patient's butt in the chair because we can't help them with their teeth, with their dental health, if they don't get their butt back in the chair. There's a lot more intention behind that. There's a lot more energy behind that. When I know I'm making reactivation calls to get that person dental health, to help that patient with their dental health, it's a lot more than I've got to make 20 reactivation calls, right? So I hope that this makes sense in the sense of, let's talk about why this is important, right? And I will challenge you with your front office team, almost everything, if not everything they do in the front. Ultimately, if I were to say, why do you do this? it should be for butts in the chair. I'm doing treatment plan follow-up calls. Why? Butts in the chair. I'm verifying insurance. Why? Butts in the chair. Ultimately, it is because my job is to do whatever I need to do to make sure that that patient arrives to get the dentistry done that they need. So I start with that because we need that. Why are we doing this, right? And I know right now, if you're listening to this live, there's this whole, like, our schedule's falling apart and we have lots of holes in the schedule and people are canceling, and reactivation can help with that for sure. I'm not saying it doesn't, but if you're calling patients with the intention of just trying to fill the schedule, you're probably not going to be quite as successful as if you're calling patients because you truly care about them and you truly care about their dental health, okay? So we need to make sure that we're always starting with why. You know, we spend a lot of money and time and energy to get that new patient in the door. And we need to remember that we are their healthcare provider. And we are the only people that look out for this part of their body, right? We're here to take care of their dental health. We are here because we care. And we tend to focus more, as we grow, as our dental offices grow, as things get crazy as they have in 2020, we tend to get more focused on the numbers and the overhead and the projections and the collections and the production and that we forget about why we're here, okay? Why we're here is to truly care about our patients. Why we're here is to help our patients keep their teeth for life. Why we're here is to get our patients in and then be their healthcare provider. So really starting with, and hopefully if you have team members watch this later, if you've watched this and this resonates with you, helping your team members recognize the why, because we probably have gotten a little fuzzy in that area. Now, let's go back to business for a minute. Why does it make sense to focus on reactivation when it comes to the business side of things? Well, reactivating a patient costs a lot less than getting a new patient, right? And new patients are 5 times more expensive to get than existing customers. So we have already invested in the marketing and the whatever you do to get the new patients to come in. We need to realize that keeping the patients in the practice is just as important as getting the new patients in. We also need to realize that case acceptance goes up with existing patients over new patients, okay? Existing customers are 3 times more likely to spend money in the business than a new patient. So let's talk about that. A new person coming in, a new patient coming in, doesn't really know you yet, isn't sure a lot of times they don't even know they need dentistry. We haven't even won them over. It's kind of like a first date, right? So our case acceptance isn't going to be as high as with a patient that has come in and learned to trust us and likes us and understands what we do for them. We're going to have higher case acceptance. You might be thinking, of course, Laura, this is obvious, right? But I will tell you that I feel in our industry, we're so focused on new patients. It's because it's fun. It's because that's what our doctors focus on. It's because, you know, we want new energy in the practice. But we tend to give our new patients this VIP new patient experience. And then we treat our everyday patients like everyday people. And not that we have to treat everybody all the time like VIPs, but we should be valuing and focusing on our current patients in their everyday appointments, their regular appointments, their follow-up calls, their treatment plan calls, their reactivation calls, just like we do our new patients, okay? And there's so many reasons to show that now, not just financially, but also because it is the why. It's the purpose of why we're here. We are here to help our patients live longer and live a better life. We are here so that they can eat when they're 95 years old. And they might not be thinking about that when they're 45 years old. And it's our job to make sure that we remember our why and we keep that in the forefront of everything that we do. Now, why are our patients disappearing? Why are our patients falling off the bandwagon? Why do we have a reactivation problem? Why is our backdoor problem the way it is? And I feel that there's 2 main reasons that we have an issue with our back door. Our systems are broken or not working the way they should be, and we don't have amazing customer service, okay? We have to look at these two things, and they're easy things to fix. They're easy things to work on. Do you know why? Because they are things that happen within our four walls. So there's so much going on right now that we can blame the outside world, the economy, the recession, the pandemic, the political issues, everything going on out in our world. And it's overwhelming. But we don't have a lot of control over what's happening outside, but we do have a lot of control over what's happening within our four walls, right? How good is our team at customer service? How good is our team at making sure our patients understand what they need and case acceptance and presenting treatment? How good is our team at follow-up phone calls and treatment plan follow-up phone calls and reactivation phone calls? Like, it's a lot easier sometimes to blame outside factors and just say, well, it's the economy or it's the pandemic, than it is to look at what we have going on within our four walls. But I challenge you right now to look within your four walls and to say, are there areas we could get better? Are there things that we could do to improve in the area of reactivation, or to improve in not even letting our patients fall out the back door? Because I think that there are. And I'm going to go into that now, because I do think that there are things that you could be doing in your dental office right now that can make an impact on this. So first of all is customer service. And I'm not going to go too in depth with this, but I will tell you that I feel that there are 3 levels of customer service that you can give your patients: amazing, average, or awful. If you are giving your patients average, awful, you're probably not here. You wouldn't be giving your patients awful customer service if you're here. You wouldn't be spending time learning on this, right? But if you're giving your patients average customer service, then they're not necessarily going to see the necessity, the value, and the need to continually be coming back to your office. They have a lot going on in their lives. They have a lot of things that they have to balance. And we need to recognize that if our patients are going to continually come to our practice and spend money in our practice, that they're expecting a little bit more. We can't just hang the sign dentist out on the front and say, okay, we're a dental office, come on in and we're going to take care of you. Patients are expecting more, okay? So customer service is a direct result of getting patients to refer, getting patients to tell people about other patients or about our office, to getting patients to do dentistry, to getting patients to want to come back to the office. You know, we were just talking about this earlier before the podcast or before the webinar started, that right now customer service is quite lacking, and it's a little stressful, and it's a little tense everywhere you go. And you want to make your practice the place the patients want to go. You want to remind your patients every time they come in why they chose your practice, and let them know that they're always going to get amazing customer service in your practice. Now, what is customer service? And this is where I think you could go back to your team now and start really having discussions around this. I think a lot of times we hear the word customer service, but it's not defined. You know, when I say to my team, you know, we need to give our patients amazing customer service, I might have one team member who's thinking like Nordstrom, personal shopper, high end, you know, walk in the door and someone waits on you hand and foot. That's their idea of customer service. And another team member who thinks, you know, they got greeted when they walked into Walmart, and that's good customer service. And neither are wrong. It's just they're coming from their own perspective. So what we need to do in our office is figure out, well, what does customer service mean to us? What does it mean for us and our patients? And we've had a stressful few months, and we might have dropped the ball on some of this. We might have forgotten what good customer service looks like. Maybe we haven't gone over it in a while. So let's come back and say, well, what does that look like for us and our team? Ultimately, though, we have to remember who's the one who gets the final definition of good customer service, and that's the patient. At the end of the day, it's what the patient wants it to be. So I would definitely make sure that you are looking at this from the patient's perspective to say, you know, we do have a lot of challenges right now. We've got PPE, and we've got people waiting out in the parking lots, and we've got all of these things we have to deal with. But that doesn't mean we can't give the patients what it is they're looking for. So let's make sure that you're spending some time talking about what is customer service, how do you define it, why does it matter, and teaching your team or meeting with your team about this again. We've had so many meetings about everything else, right? Policies and procedures and safety and OSHA and all of that stuff. Let's spend some time talking about customer service and the importance of it. Because it's a lot like riding a bike. This is actually a picture of me. I've mentioned I've recently gotten married, and when I started dating my now husband, he mentioned to me that he's a road cyclist. And I don't know if you guys know what a road cyclist is, but those guys that go out, you see them on the street, they're all over California, where they ride 50, 60, 100 miles, right? And of course, I was trying to impress a little bit, and I said, I can ride a bike. Let me go buy this bike, and I'll ride with you. And so this is the day that I bought the bike. Took a picture of it, great bike, it's awesome. Well, the next 3 times I was on that bike, I fell over. Because here's the thing about bikes like this, if you don't know, if you're not a bicyclist or a road cyclist or a mountain biker, a true one, they snap their shoes into the pedals. I don't know if you've ever known that, but I didn't. And your feet are connected to the pedals. Well, what happened the next 3 times I rode the bike is if you don't snap your feet out fast enough and you slow down too much, you fall over. Well, I haven't fallen over on a bike since I was like 12. Here I am with this fancy new bike trying to impress this guy, and I know how to ride a bike, and I still fell over. My lesson in this is, first of all, I got normal pedals now, so I don't snap in right now. I'm not that good yet. But understanding that I know how to ride a bike. Your team understands what customer service is in a broad sense. But what we need to do is actually work on helping them get better with customer service. You know, a lot of our team members have never been trained in, you know, communication skills, nonverbal skills, shaking hands, smiling, greeting the patients. Like, we really need to spend some time teaching our team members customer service and what that looks like for our practice, just like I need to learn how to ride a bike without falling over again. Now, these are just some basic customer service tips that I have. They're not ones that you have to do or include in your office, or you might want to take these and then add to them. But there are certain things for me that are vital, like when a patient comes in, greet the patient, look at the patient, smile at them, welcome them to the practice, welcome them back to the practice, focus on the patient. We get so busy doing our jobs, we're running around busy that we forget that there's a patient in the reception area or in the operatory. So focus on the patient, you know, talk to them, put the patient first, small talk with them. I know we have a lot to do during our days, but ultimately, if we don't put that patient first, that patient can decide at any given point that they don't feel valued, or maybe they can find another dentist who's going to value them more. So we need to make sure that we're not putting work in front of our patients. So my suggestion is you take this and you work with your team on this. What does customer service look like for our practice? What is the minimum expectation that you expect from everybody on your team to make sure the patients feel valued, that they want to come back? Because a lot of times our patients disappear out of the back door, and it's not that they're going anywhere, it's just that they're not coming back. They're not coming here. And if you go out and you read on the internet, if you go look at the reviews of dental offices, the majority of the reviews that are out there that are not amazing reviews for dental offices very rarely have to do with dentistry. Most of the time it has to do with the way the team handled the patient, how they felt in the office, how they were treated in the office. Most of the time, the bad reviews out there about dentistry is about customer service and how we handled the patient. So recognizing that if nothing else, we can get our patients to feel like they got a value for their time in the office and the money they spend. You know, patients don't like to come to the office. I don't know if you realize that or not, but they don't love coming to the dental office. So we don't want to be the reason that they don't come back. Okay, so that's the first step. Okay, customer service, and that's kind of the foundation that we need to make sure, because if we have a backdoor problem and we're bringing our patients back in or trying to get them back in, we need to make sure we're doing everything we can to give our patients amazing experience. Now, let's talk about systems. Where have things broken down, where people have fallen out of the back door? Because every patient should always leave your office with their next appointment. Every patient should always have their next appointment in the schedule, and that has not happened. We have come out of a time where lots of cancellations happen, like more cancellations than ever before. So now we have to go back into those systems and figure out what broke, make sure we're doing everything we can to fix them, training our team on them so that going forward, we don't continue this reactivation problem, okay? So I joke about this because I have on here, you know, where would a patient rather go than the dentist? And the answer is anywhere. Okay, so just like I said, we are their healthcare providers. We help them keep their teeth for life. In our patients' minds, you know, we put drills and needles in their mouths and they're going to pay thousands of dollars for something nobody's ever going to see. So patients don't like to come to the dentist. Most patients don't, right? I laugh and I smile about this because one time I was speaking and I said, where would a patient rather go than the dentist? And I had somebody raise their hand. Usually it's anywhere, but I had someone raise their hand and they said gynecologist. And it made me laugh. And I thought, no, actually, I think we might be tied there, right? But we have to recognize that it's not fun. It's not like going to the new restaurant down the street or going shopping for clothes. We do have to make sure that we are their healthcare providers, and our job is to make sure that we have the systems in place that are working well to not let them fall out. Because just like a kid, like, how many times do you have to tell a child that they have to eat their peas or they have to go to bed at night, right? They don't want to. Patients don't want to come to the dentist. It's our job to help them not fall out, right? Not fall out of the schedule. So the systems that I think to focus on right away that are easy fixes or easier fixes that need attention are your case acceptance process. Reappointment, how are you appointing your patients for their next appointment, and are you making sure everybody gets reappointed? Cancellations, handoffs, and reactivation. So I'm going to kind of dig into each one of those. We don't have a ton of time, but I'm going to talk about each one a little bit and areas that I think that you could work to improve. So let's first talk about case acceptance. We have a case presentation, case acceptance problem in our industry. The average $1 million practice, that says $1 practice, it's supposed to be $1 million practice, diagnoses $2.4 million a year. So that means $1.4 million is leaving your practice. Case acceptance is really only about 30, 35, 40%. Though dentists feel like if I were to ask them, how's your case acceptance, they're going to say it's 65, 70, 80, 85, 90%, right? It's because when our dentists tell the patient they need something, the patient goes, yeah, I understand, that's what I need, that sounds great. But then when they come to the front desk, they tell us that they're going to think about it, or they're only going to do what the insurance covers, or they need to talk to their spouse. So we need to recognize when and where and how and who presents treatment in our office. So let's talk about who presents treatment in the office to start with. We tend to, most dental offices that I've seen, what tends to happen is the dentist tells the patient in the back what they need, and the patient shakes their head yes, and then either the dental assistant or somebody from the front office team puts the treatment plan in front of the patient, goes over the treatment plan with the patient, asks the patient what they want to do, and then the patient decides if they want to do it or not, or they leave. And there's no real process to it. There's no real training around it. There's no real emphasis on it. So my suggestion is that first of all, we start to look at who should be presenting. And it doesn't necessarily need to be the dental assistant because they're the ones in the room, or the front office person because they're the next available. We really need to make sure we have a system in place that the right people at the right place and the right time are presenting treatment. The top 10 list for me are, you've got to make sure that somebody who's passionate about helping the patient, that they understand how to have communication, ability to help the patient understand the need, somebody who's confident, empathetic, somebody comfortable with money. That's a huge thing. The better your team can get at being comfortable talking about money and confident with it, the better it's going to be, because we need good communicators who understand that when a patient says that's $1,000 and the patient goes, that's a lot of money, that we understand it's a lot of money, but it's still, this is what you need, right? And we need to be confident about it. Remember back to the small business cycle, you know, part of case acceptance is selling Selling is that 4-letter word that nobody really likes to say, but we put drills and needles in our patients' mouths. And if we don't get good at selling, and if we don't make sure that our team who's presenting treatment is good at selling, we're going to ask our patients, what do you want to do? And they're always going to either pick the cheapest or the only what the insurance covers, because people don't want what we do for a living. So we need to make sure that we are presenting treatment in such a way with the right people that the patients understand the need, and we are confident in getting them to accept it and appoint for it, because ultimately it's hashtag butts in the chair. Okay. Now, who should not be selling? And I have in here people in the dental box. And let me actually talk about dental box thinking. Let me back this up. Dental box versus business box. What we do right now when we present treatment is the dentist tells the patient what they need. The patient says, yep, that sounds good, doc. The doctor leaves, we walk in, or we bring someone to the front desk and we show them the treatment plan, and the patient looks down this and says, yep, that sounds great, but I don't want to do all that. I'll do this. And the patient either appoints for that or appoints for nothing and then leaves. Because we're living in this dental box. And dental box thinking for me is we're only focused on insurance. We let the patients pick off of a list when we bring the treatment plan up and they go, oh, I'll take the crown, but not the filling, or I'll take the filling and not the crown. We have to recognize that we are business, and we've talked about that. So take off your dental box thinking and put on the business box. When somebody presents, when you're in another industry and there's something that you need, they're going to sit down with you. They're going to go over all the options with you. They're going to talk to you about money, and then they're going to ask you, how do you want to pay? They're not going to say, what do you want to do? They're not going to do it standing at the front desk, 5 steps away from the front door. And they're not going to say, well, let's see what the insurance covers. So we need to, your team, all of us, could get better at, let's take off our dental box and let's put on our business box hat, and let's look at case presentation and really get the training that we need and get the systems down to get better at presenting treatment. Because if we stay in this dental box, we're only going to get patients to accept what insurance covers. And that is not ultimately what the patient needs, okay? We also need to get out of the dental box and put our business box hat on to realize that technology is our friend. So many times, and I'm hoping that we're getting pushed forward with technology in our industry, but our industry is really behind the times when it comes to technology. So using things like, you know, what Solution Reach has with unscheduled treatment plan reminders, and recognizing that when patients leave our office, they're not thinking they're going to call us back. Oh yeah, I need to do that crown. I mean, unless they're in pain, they're just, I got out, time to go. So we need to make sure that we're balancing our phone calls, our communication with our patients, along with the technology, because I don't know about you, but if you call my phone, it's going to say, send me a text message, I won't call you back. You need to text me, you need to email me. Many times I'm busy and I have a lot going on in my life, and I'm not going to get to something like this until 9, 10, or 11 at night. So recognizing that we live in this dental box, take that off, put the business box on, the business hat on, and how can we help our patients accept treatment better and accept at a higher percentage. Okay, my next one is reappointment. I want to make sure I get all these before the end of this. So reappointment are making sure that the patients schedule their next appointments. You know, a lot of times I hear team members say, do you want to schedule your next appointment? Or the patient says, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing in 6 months from now, I'll just call you. And the team members are not trained in how to handle that. They're very not confident. They're like, okay. And then we look at the end of the day and we're like, we've only reappointed 50% of our patients when our goal is 90 or 95%. So we have to recognize that our patients don't like to come to the dentist. We need to be better at this than they are. We need to help our team members get trained in how to handle the verbal skills. In my way, what I suggest is we don't say, do you want to schedule? We say, we have 2 times, when would you like to schedule? I want to make it a win-win for the patient. I want to be lighthearted about it, but I want to be confident with it. You know, we understand you don't know what you're doing 6 months from now, but it's important that for us that we get you in the schedule. We'll send you an appointment reminder a month in advance. If that day and time doesn't work, then great, we'll call, or you can call us and we can we can move it up or down or to a different day. But not giving them the, do you want to appoint? Instead, it's, let's get you scheduled. And there's a confidence with that, right? Plus having the technology again to back that. You know, sometimes people do have to leave. They're rushing out. They have to go get their kid. We somehow missed, getting them scheduled. Immediately, then we should be doing everything we can, not only with phone calls, but also with emails and text messages to get our patients in the schedule, because it's much better to have somebody in the schedule than to have them leave, because what happens is they get busy, life happens, and then they disappear. Next thing you know, it's 2 or 3 years later. So really looking at your training and the systems and making sure, if you haven't already, get with Solution Reach to, do you have the right timing set up? Do you have the right message in there? Have you customized what your message is? Is it working for you to get your patients to schedule into a point? The next system I would suggest that you look at are handoffs. Many times I talk to team members about, do you do handoffs? And they say, yeah, but a handoff is more than just, I'm done with the patient, you schedule them next. There's actual processes to handoffs. There's, between every location. So when a patient moves from the reception area to the operatory, from the operatory to the consultation room, that needs a handoff. When information gets passed from if the patient tells me something, I need to pass that off to the next person who's handling the patient. When I have that information, I need to pass that off in a handoff. When there's a change in provider in the appointment or a step in the appointment. And again, I'm not doing comprehensive training at this point. I'm just saying, if your handoffs are less than awesome, superior, then this could be an area that you could definitely work on, because there is an assembly line. When your patients check in to check out, everybody should know the steps along the way. And there's really only, 5 or 6 different kinds of appointments. What's the assembly line? What's the check-in to check-out process for an emergency patient, for a new patient, for a recare patient, for a perio patient? And then we need to make sure that all those steps happen, right? Because many times you miss one of these steps and now the patient no longer has an appointment, and then we now have to reactivate them 18 months later, okay? Cancellations. This is where a lot of times and especially this year, where we've had issues with reactivation because people have canceled, right? So my suggestion is that you do not have a cancellation policy. And what I mean by that is, I do not think charging $50 or $100 to cancel the appointment is fixing the problem. You can tell the patient you could charge that, but what I would rather do is have the patient have the feeling, understanding that when we schedule you, we expect you to show up. And if you need to move the day and time, that you give us enough notice. But when you say, we have a cancellation policy, it just opens up the door to the patient that you allow cancellations. My suggestion is that when a patient does try to call and cancel, I actually say, put your acting hat on, like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Is everything okay? Why are you trying to cancel? Because we have trained our patients, especially in like hygiene, that it's almost okay to cancel. We're like, oh, are you sure? Okay, well, let's get you rescheduled. And we've taught our patients that it's okay to cancel. It's okay to move their appointments last minute, when really it's not okay. So we need to change that culture in our practice. We need to tell our patients that it's not okay to cancel, and that we do ask for a 48-hour notice or 72-hour notice, and let's get you rescheduled. Let's not let them cancel. So a lot of this is around training. You have to train your team members, because if you just let anybody answer the phone and you don't teach them how to have this communication with the patient and how to make sure the patient gets rescheduled, and then how to make sure that the patient doesn't continually cancel over and over again. And at some point, what is your office policy about not letting them continually reschedule? Then it's going to keep happening. So you really want to make sure that you're looking at your cancellation policies and how do you focus on that. Okay. So there are systems that I suggest, again: case acceptance, reappointment, handoffs, and cancellations. Those are 4 areas that there's a lot more training available on those areas. And if your office, if you do not feel like you are amazing in that area, then that's within your 4 walls. You can work on that. Now, my final point on this is, where do our patients go? So customer service is awesome. We've got to make it amazing. We've got to have our systems in. And then we have to recognize that patients do leave for various reasons. And where did they go? And understanding what our intention is when we're trying to reactivate them, all the way back to where I started at the beginning of this. What's the why behind reactivation? It's important that our team members messages we send, text messages and emails, and the voicemail messages that we leave, understand that our intention is to get that patient back. Our intention is to get into communication with that patient to figure out what's going on in their lives, or why did they leave, or how can we help them? Because ultimately, hashtag butts in the chair, our job is to get the patients to come back in, right? So your team members need to understand the why behind reactivation calls. I think a lot of times reactivation calls on the list of things fall to the bottom of the list. Like, we have so many other things that we need to do that reactivation calls are just like, really? Because 9 times out of 10, we get voicemails. 9 times out of 10, we don't even talk to the patient. Or if we do, maybe it's a patient who's upset, a patient who doesn't like that they have a bill or a balance, or the last time they were in, they didn't get amazing service. Those aren't fun calls to make sometimes. And so we need to remind our team regularly, what is the purpose of a reactivation call, right? So first of all, it's to let our patients know that they're always welcome back, to remind them the importance of dental health, to put ourselves on their list and not let them forget. So you may not get somebody to schedule this month or next month or the next month, but they need to know that you're not giving up on them because you care about them. It's to keep them from going to a competitor. A lot of times our patients, after they haven't come to us for 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, they think that they're going to get in trouble if they come back. They think that we're going to yell at them, and they get marketed to by all of our competitors. And so the next time they have tooth pain, we don't want them thinking, oh, I can't go back to our, that office. I need to go somewhere new. We want them to know, hey, we are here for you. And when you are ready to come back, we are going to accept you and welcome you back. And then I really want to find out, if at all possible, if I get them on the phone or start emailing with them or start texting with them, why aren't they back? What is going on? It could be something in their lives. It could be something that we've done. So I really want to find out what the real reason is. And this is where I think we drop the ball a lot of times, the team members. We don't want to find out why we don't go that next step as to, like, what is really going on? Like, what is really keeping you from coming to us or coming back, right? I think the main 6 reasons, and we did a survey in our office and pulled these 6 reasons out, that it's 1, customer service, not in any order, but either they're not back because they didn't love the last time they were in, they got busy, or life stuff is outstanding, like there's a lot of life things going on for them. They have outstanding work to do, they owe us money, they've had an insurance change, or they have fear or embarrassment, like they're afraid to come back or they're embarrassed about something. So we need to have questions for our team members to dig a little bit and to find out, well, what is the true reason? What is the real reason they're not back? Now, I'm not saying you have to follow these questions necessarily. I'm not a big fan of scripts, but your team members, when they are trying to reactivate a patient, it's not just, hey, do you want to schedule your appointment? It's been 2 years. Instead, it's like, let me find out a little bit about what's going on. And these are questions that you can ask. I'm not going to read through all these because you can do that. But these are questions that you can give your team members, or variations of them, to really start to find out what is the real reason. Because maybe we can fix that reason. Maybe it's they lost their insurance and we have a membership program in the office. Maybe it's they didn't get amazing service last time they were in, and we can remind or explain to them that they saw a temporary hygienist and that's not our normal hygienist. Maybe they're really scared because the last time they were in, it was really painful, and we can talk to them about, how we can make it better for them. Whatever the case may be, we can't just say, do you want to come in? Because they're going to say no. We have to really talk to them about what is the issue, and understanding that these are people that we're dealing with, right? And we do put drills and needles in their mouths, okay? Now, I suggest that you are actively reactivating your patients. So minimally, they should get 1 phone call a month. I think it's important that they hear a voice, even if it's a voicemail, and then you should text or email them at least once a month, forever, until they tell you not to call them again, right? So here's just some great suggestions that Solution Reach has. I suggest that you work with them to either pull what's available to you just to get something going fast, or I love personalizing all your communication. We personalized videos for these are my hygienists, and they made videos that went out in, you're overdue for your recare appointment, and now it's been quite a while, and we can't wait to see you. And the videos, for me, connect with the patients. And a lot of times our patients, They connect with our hygienists sometimes more than they do our dentists. And so I wanted to make sure that we stood out and remind them every time how important it is that they come back to us, okay? And then we need to realize that at the list of things that we do, this falls to the bottom of the list. So somebody needs to be responsible to make sure that this is happening, right? We need to make sure that there is time set aside for team members to be doing this, because if there's not, it's not going to happen on its own. We need to look at where people on our team are spending time and make sure that there's a percentage of time spent on reactivation. And it doesn't have to be just one person. We can delegate this to, dental assistants, hygienists, the whole team can do calls. But again, if you're going to have people doing reactivation, they need to know what's the purpose behind it. So have them watch this webinar. And then again, pick a time of day, put it in the schedule. It's like going to the gym. If you don't schedule it and put it in the day, it's never going to happen. So pick the best time of day, whether you have somebody stay 1 hour at night and do it, or you do it first thing in the morning, or everybody takes a different time of the day. Just make sure that it doesn't procrastinate to the point where it doesn't happen, okay? And again, like I said, this can be delegated. So this is a team effort. My suggestion is within your four walls, you come together as a team and you talk about, you can pull reports to see how big is your backdoor problem. You spend a little time and energy the rest of 2020, early 2021, closing the backdoor problem, and you can finish this year amazing and start next year on the right foot. So on that note, I want to thank Solution Reach. I'm going to pass this back over to Lori, and I think there may or may not be some questions. I know I went quite up to 11 o'clock my time, but thank you guys, and I'll let Lori take over, and then I'll answer any questions if there is any.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Laura. That was so great. And we do have a few questions that I'm going to have us go over. There are a couple of things I thought that we could discuss, and everyone's welcome to stay on or to jump off if you need as well. But we're going to go just a couple minutes over to talk about some of these things. First of all, Laura, when it comes to training, how often or how do you train the team? Do you set up a weekly, monthly? Like, how do you go about sort of scheduling training for your team?
So training doesn't happen just on its own. That's the one thing I can tell you with like front office rocks. We hear a lot of times, well, we don't have enough time to train. You have to schedule it. So there's 3 different ways that you can implement training in your practice. 4, I guess. One is new hire training. We don't train well enough at the beginning. So we need to make sure that you are allotting time when you hire somebody new to fully train them on whatever it is they need to know. And there's steps to it, and you need to make sure that you train them in a start on something basic and let them get good at that, then train them on something else. So there's the new hire training. The next thing I suggest is that you do individual training, meaning you put in the schedule times where each employee can step away for an hour, can go into a consult room or the kitchen or the doctor's office and watch videos like this or read an article. And it doesn't have to be about reactivation. It could be a clinical training or whatever, but we need to invest in our team, and it doesn't happen in production. They're not going to step away to go do training. We have to schedule it. So there's that. The third thing is sometimes we just don't have enough time. A 40-hour week goes really, really fast. And so it might be that like if you're closed on Fridays, that everybody can do an hour at home, right? Everybody can come in and spend an hour on a day that you're not seeing patients. So you can get creative around that. And then lastly, with the team, and minimally, my suggestion is at least you have a team meeting once a month. And if you have to, bring in a webinar like this, bring in something that you want to focus on and give the team the opportunity to get their heads out of the mouths of our patients and together, because hopefully from something like this, you now can have a conversation with your team about, well, how do we want to implement things? What do we want to do in our practice, right? Because I'm giving you tips and suggestions, but now you guys need to take it to that next level, and it takes the team to do that. So it really kind of just depends on your office, but if I had my way, it would be great new hire training, 1 hour a week for each employee individually, and then as a team once a month.
I love it. And I suggest also with your monthly training, doing some role playing with all of those exact wording things you were talking about, Laura, about making sure you are actually, responding to the patient in a way that is going to bring them down the funnel to doing more treatment and whatnot. So practicing that is so key.
And it's funny because every time I talk about role playing, like when I actually have people in front of me, everybody does this, like, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
nobody likes to role play, but it's a safe environment. I suggest have some fun with it. Like, I don't
Yes.
know, play games, just joke about it. Team, like it's a good team building environment. And you're right. I mean, not only can we get more confident in our verbal skills of what we say to the patients, it's easier with the team to then do it with the patients. So I 100%
Yes.
you.
Yes, you get used to having those phrases come out of your mouth. So,
Right.
I do have another question. Do you feel about like bonuses? Is it important to have kind of a staff bonus system in place to really kind of take your practice to the next level? How do you feel about bonus
That's a great question.
structures?
Actually, I just wrote an article about this. So I feel that bonuses are fine. Don't get me wrong on bonuses, but a bonus every month to do your job isn't a bonus. So we pay our team members a certain amount to do a job. And if you're bonusing the team member to do their job better, that's not the motivation of a bonus. So there is an expectation that everybody should have about just doing their job, and you shouldn't be bonused on that. You can have team bonuses, and I'm all for it. That's fine. I personally don't like the same bonus month in and month out because it loses the energy behind it. The idea behind a bonus is to do something above and beyond, to do something extra, to hit a higher goal. And if it's the same thing month in, month out, it just becomes rote. The other problem with monthly bonuses that are exactly the same is people start to expect it. Team members
Yes.
start to figure it into their salary because they know that they're going to, and then when they don't get it, it's a negative. You know, now they're upset, like, oh my gosh, I didn't get my bonus. I already spent that money. So I don't love that. What I suggest is play games. Games are things that you can do for the week, for the day, for the month, for the quarter, and the games can be a financial win. I'm not saying you can't do financial games, but you can also have games like doctor buys everybody pizza on Friday, or everybody gets to go to the spa at the end of the quarter if we make this goal. And the game can be associated around what the focus is that you really want intention on right now. So reactivation on this one, you can play a game with reactivation. I point like the back door. Let's fix our backdoor problem. And if we can really focus on this at the end of 90 days, XYZ happens, here's what you guys win. Now, I see a lot of people on social media say, well, what should the team get? You know, what should the bonus be? Ask your team members. Team members go to your doctor and say, hey, if we do this extra thing, if we do this, hit this goal, could we do this? And sometimes it's not even about money. Sometimes it's about, we just want some time to like hang out and have fun. You know, we just want to,
Yes.
we want more training. We want you to take us to a course. You know, sometimes it's
Yes.
not the money. So really getting with your team and saying, well, what would motivate you guys to do all these reactivation calls or reactivate patients, and then getting everybody on the same page for sure.
I love it. Well, we could probably keep talking all day, but we're out of time. I know everybody's got really busy schedules, so I do want to just run through here. We do have a few little offers. Laura, why don't you talk about this slide a little bit?
Just wanted to remind you guys that, you know, investing into your team is the best investment you can make. I have a book called Step Away from the Drill. I wrote specifically to dentists, but the teams can read it. And it's really about getting out of the mindset of just production, 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 delivery, delivery, delivery. We need to work on the rest of our systems. And so you can find my book on Amazon or my website, and know that investing in your team is the best investment. So training them, whatever it is, whether you use Front Office Rocks, which is my company, whether you use other companies, it doesn't matter. But we can't expect our team members to improve and do better if we don't give them the resources. So even this webinar, thank you Solution Reach for this, you know, you can show this to your team members, you can have a discussion around it and really investing in them, because patients don't know if you're a good dentist or not. They know how they feel when they're in the office, and it's your team that makes that experience. So that's
Absolutely.
kind of my final, you know, yeehaw in that subject.
Yeah, and as well with Solution Reach, we have a lot of technology that can help you with a lot of these kind of things, reaching out to patients, especially you guys are so busy. I feel like you have the job that like 3 or 4 people sometimes could manage. And so if you're able to take off some of the busy work, then you can really focus on those in-person and voice to voice, face to face relationships that you can build. So if you are interested in doing a demo, we have a $75 Amazon gift card offer going right now. just for those who have participated in today's webinar. So that's just for doing a demo. You can get yourself something fun for Christmas or for the holidays. I do want to mention real quick before everyone's gone, we will have a quick survey sent out following the webinar today. It's like 5 questions, really short, just getting feedback, if there are other topics you want, if you want people to reach out, things like that. But we have right now, we're really encouraging, trying to get more people to fill out the survey. So if you do fill out the survey after, you'll be entered into a drawing for some AirPods, which is super fun and great, and it's not a big commitment. So go ahead, fill out the survey, reach out anytime. You will get you'll get the recording of today's presentation as well as a copy of the slides after. So at any time, reach out and just have a great day. Any final words from you, Laura?
Nope, just let's get through 2020 and we can do it, right?
We can do it, absolutely. We got this. Thanks,
Exactly.
everybody. Have a great day.